Hello and welcome to Ranlif Reviews. I'm Ranlif, and today we're going to be looking at the Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC, which was released for Mass Effect 2. This DLC is interesting because it is one of the highest rated and reviewed DLCs, yet it doesn't have a companion that comes with it, at least a permanent one. And generally, when you look at other BioWare DLCs, the only ones people highly rate or say are a must-buy are ones that add something to the entire game experience. Well, this one's only going to give you a new mission. You're going to get Liara back, a companion you had in the first game, for the duration of the mission. You're going to get a couple research items, and you're going to get a really interesting story. So, right off the bat, I think that gives you a interesting understanding that if there is no companion in it, the one mission you get better be damn good. So the mission focuses on Liara, who, again, was a companion you had in the first game. She was an Asari scientist. So you work with her, and you find out what she's been doing since the events at the beginning of Mass Effect 2. And I don't want to spoil that for you if you've never played the game, but essentially she is no longer on the Normandy with Shepard, the main character, along with everyone else. So gameplay-wise, the DLC is mainly broken up into two acts. Your first act takes place on the planet Ilium, so you're more in a city setting, and the second act takes place on a planet you're not able to get to without the DLC. Each act ends in a boss fight, so these are pretty heavily combat-oriented. There is a great story to go with it, but if you're outside the cutscenes, really all you're going to have is combat. There's a short sequence where you're kind of trying to solve a puzzle, but it's really just click on all the things in the room and you'll be totally fine. So going through the combat, you do have Liara as a companion in the second act only, and she is a biotic, so she'll be using a lot of CC type of biotic abilities. She's not a huge damage dealer, so take that into account when you're trying to pick your second companion. So the interesting thing is the boss fights. You don't really get a ton of those in the Mass Effect universe. Usually you're just kind of killing waves and waves of minions, gruntlings, whatever you want to call them. The first boss, really nothing interesting. Very mobile, biotic. You're not going to be challenged in any way by this boss. If you just understand the cover system, stay out of line of sight, it's nothing new. The second boss does have some unique mechanics to it. So if you are looking for a challenge, it might be something to try out. Footage behind you, I played on normal, so I was never really in any kind of problems, but I could see even the first boss, depending on how much it changes as you up the difficulty. I don't think the boss's mechanics would change. Actually, I'm positive the boss's mechanics aren't going to change. So if you are looking for a challenge, and that's why you're looking at this DLC is not for you. It's pretty quick. It only will take you about an hour or two to get through. There is a lot of combat, but it's not necessarily anything game-changing, anything that's really going to challenge you, although the second boss fight is interesting. It sticks to the Mass Effect formula. So that's not the reason to get this DLC. The gameplay is just Mass Effect 2. But the reason that you might want to look at this DLC, and I'm not saying it's for everybody, is Liara and the story and the environments it sends you to. Liara is really nice to have back. If you played the first game and you really like Liara, she's back. You finally get to find out what the hell she's been up to this entire time. It sets up her character and place in the universe for the third game, so if you've been wondering what the hell she was doing for, the 2 years Shepard was gone and then the events of Mass Effect 2, this is going to tell you that story. You do also get some unique environments to experience. The planet you get to go to in the second act, you pretty much have a very long fight on top of a capital-sized cruiser that's just hurtling through the atmosphere. So it has some great vistas. It's kind of cool to fight on top of a ship. It's kind of a sci-fi fantasy, to be able to do that. So that's pretty great. But again, the story, although good, it is something you could just go read, a paragraph on in, Wikipedia somewhere, or you could go watch a video of all the cutscenes, or you could watch the entire playthrough. So does that justify the $10 price? And my answer is no, really. And that is to say, if you're just going for the story or gameplay, $10 is still a steep price this far down the line. This DLC was released 4 years ago. It'll never go on sale. BioWare never puts any of this DLC on sale, so that's a total shame, because that way most people aren't going to experience it just having to spend $10. And if you play on PC, it is a total pain in the ass to get. You can't get it on Steam. It doesn't go through Origin. You have to go buy BioWare points through their website, download the DLC, and then it pretty much patches itself in once you download it. So why get this DLC? You might be asking, because I haven't really said anything horrible about it. I just don't think it's worth the value. But there is a reason to get the DLC, and that is if you are romancing Liara, especially if you did in the first game and you want to continue. So a few different directions this could go. So you could have romanced Liara in the first game. Now you kind of get to reaffirm that romance in the second game through the DLC. And then going into the third game, you can already kind of be in a romance with her. Your actions in the DLC will affect your romance with her in the third game, and that way you can have this really nice story arc that kind of all wraps itself up, where you guys have been together and had this beautiful love story the entire time. You also could break up with Liara here. If you were with her in the first game and now don't care about her at all, you've moved on, or you just decide you don't want a romance at all, fine. You can break up with her here and then move into Mass Effect 3 with a clean slate, or the rest of Mass Effect 2. But one of the more interesting options is if you had a relationship with her in Mass Effect 1, and then in Mass Effect 2, up until this point, before you embarked on this DLC quest, which you can kind of do pretty much almost any point past recruiting the first couple companions, you'll be able to go do this. So let's say you're with Miranda now. So she will actually comment on your new love interest. She'll give her opinion on them, and she'll do that for anybody. So it is interesting to see, the old girlfriend look at the new girlfriend or boyfriend, depending on, whichever way your shepherd swings. So that is it's an interesting thing to look at. And that is where this DLC shines, is being the bridge if you have any kind of romantic interest in Liara, and then being able to carry that into Mass Effect 3. That's the most important reason to buy this. So again, value, it's still $10. It might have been worth it, the day it came out and you wanted more Mass Effect 2 and there was no Mass Effect 3 and you just needed more Mass Effect. But now, for $10, there's plenty of indie games out there you can go grab if you're just looking for something to take up your time. Again, this is only going to take an hour or two to beat. Only took me an hour, but again, I was playing on normal. If you had deaths, it might take you even longer. So it doesn't add that much gameplay-wise, and the only story it adds is to the Liara storyline. It doesn't give you that much background into the universe or the main story as some of the other DLCs do. That being said, I said it's still considered to be one of the best DLCs for Mass Effect, and that is because it's well-paced. It does add a lot to one of the favorite characters in the Mass Effect universe. The combat is good, and that is what you're going to get out of it, but it's only an hour or two of gameplay. So anyways, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've played the DLC, and if I'm completely wrong, leave a comment, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and keep on gaming.
What kind of hotel is this?
Azure. It's a luxury resort with an exotic edge. Azure is slang for a part of the Asari body in some areas of Ilium.
Where?
Mainly the lower reaches, near the bottom.
I meant where on the Asari body.
So did I.